a political analyst. He joins me now from Washington, D.C. Thanks for your time. Now, it's a great symbol for Zelenskyy to show that he can leave Ukraine amid a war and get a one-on-one meeting with US President. I'm wondering if it's good optics for Biden, though. This war is costing a lot, both in defense and obviously the energy crisis there in the US as well.
Well, I think this is actually good optics for both men. I think President Biden has made clear that the United States stands with Ukraine and we will continue to stand with Ukraine. But also he needs to be able to continue to sell this to the American people. Already, the United States has invested more than $40 billion in helping Ukraine fend off Russia. And now on the table, lawmakers are negotiating an additional $45 billion. So both men need this to work for their political careers, but also in the case of Ukraine, they need it to work for their security. And so what we're going to see tonight when President Zelenskyy addresses a joint session of Congress, it is to actually try to win the hearts and minds of some of those Republicans in the House who may not be as supportive of Ukraine as perhaps some of those Senate Republicans are. And so I think that is where now we're going to see President Zelenskyy hopefully at his best to try to move the needle with some of those who may not be willing to actually go along with Ukraine, particularly after this $45 billion has been appropriated.
What about, the optics when we're looking towards the Kremlin? You have Zelenskyy and Biden there looking very friendly. Biden also made a point at the press conference to say that this war has only really galvanized NATO and that there's no rifts between them. How do you think this showing of unity between them will be seen in Russia?
Well, again, I think Russia has always looked at the United States as helping Ukraine. In fact, many and we know President Biden has been very sensitive to this. That this is viewed as a proxy war. But again, I think the primary audience for this going forward is not necessarily just Vladimir Putin, but also those NATO and European allies who the United States is going to need to actually continue to fund and support Ukraine in a far more aggressive way than the United States has been. We also have to remember the request and the resources that President Biden has gone to Congress for in response to Ukraine. Congress has always actually leveled up, meaning they have always given more than what the White House has asked for. So until now, there has been enormous support and goodwill for President Zelenskyy and for Ukraine writ large. But now going forward, this is because this war is going to potentially drag on for years and not months. It's clear that this is going to need to be an all hands on deck situation where what we saw today is not just for Congress, it's not just for Vladimir Putin, but also for many of those European allies who are also watching this play out as well.
I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves, but there will be a US election soon. We are wondering, if Joe Biden will run. But I guess wondering, this is a very costly war in the US, and how Joe Biden would be feeling about basically needing to end this or to at least, get Ukraine on the front foot to try and, quell opposition at home.
Well, to be clear, Ukraine has engaged in this war far more aggressively and far better than anyone thought or hoped that they would. And so at this point right now, President Biden has been very astute to assure Americans that no U.S. boots are on the ground and that right now what the United States is doing is sending certainly its treasure and its resources, but more importantly, there are no U.S. forces on the ground. So that gives President Biden some political cover when he begins to run. And also the fact that Ukraine has been so successful, that also gives President Biden a leg up, because then he can say that Ukraine has been so successful because of the weaponry, because of the resources provided by the United States. And let's be clear. Russia has been a thorn in the United States side for quite some time with their engagement in various attacks on the United States. And so there's certainly no love lost for Russia in the United States. The question, of course, is how President Biden actually pitches and makes that sell an argument when he and if he decides to actually run for re-election in 2024.
Okay, thank you for your analysis. That's Eric Ham, political analyst there in Washington, D.C.